I'm a side character in a BL aristocratic campus novel. Like the protagonist bottom, I was admitted on a special scholarship. But unlike him, resilient and unyielding, refusing to bow to the bullying of the rich young masters, I was a complete coward. When the young masters sneered that I looked poor, I blinked back tears and said, "Sorry, this is actually the best outfit I own. Sorry for hurting your eyes." He accused me of pretending to be pitiful. I lowered my head, ashamed. "I'm sorry. I just didn't want you to look down on me. I hoped we could be friends." But even the ticket to get to this school, I earned it by selling lemonade. That night, the young master was so shocked, so guilt-ridden. He woke up halfway through his sleep just to slap himself across the face. Messing with me? You might as well try punching cotton. Welcome to History channel. Subscribe to follow all our latest adventures. Story begins. When I awakened, I was in the middle of bullying the protagonist show alongside a group of young masters. Fred Owen, the protagonist, was just returning to the dorm, arms wrapped around his books, when he accidentally bumped into us and stepped on George Evans' foot. Fred apologized. But that wasn't enough. The young masters demanded he kneel and clean George's shoe. Fred, proud and unyielding, refused. His eyes were red but his voice steady. "I'm not like you spoiled rich kids. I have dreams. I came here to learn, not to be humiliated. If you want someone to grovel, you picked the wrong person. I'm not like Ray Fuller." And I was Ray Fuller. There was a moment of stunned silence. I saw it in their eyes. He's different from everyone else. And everyone else included me, the pathetic foil. This world I lived in was a BL aristocratic school novel. I was the cannon fodder. Fred Owen was the protagonist bottom. Both of us were admitted to Noan Academy as special scholarship students, a prestigious institution where noble lineages reigned supreme. Special admits like us paid no tuition. In fact, we even received a living stipend. Fred was resilient, unbreakable. When the young masters pushed him, he pushed back harder. He even declared open war on them. They found him annoying at first. Then they found him different. This was one of those stories where the universally hated protagonist becomes the universally adored. And I was the contrast character. From the moment I entered this school, it was as if something had possessed me. I became snobbish, obsessed with wealth and status. I wagged my tail behind the young masters, eager to please. They pretended to accept me, but laughed behind my back. Eventually, I'd end up helping them bully Fred on my own initiative. They would punish me, make an example of me, and I'd be forced to leave the school in disgrace. I could hardly believe it. I was easy to please. Someone who could smile all day for a hamburger. How could I possibly be the kind of person who bullied others? Who looked down on the poor? Just as I was spiraling through those thoughts, a voice snapped me out of it. "Oh, interesting. Ray Fuller, why don't you show him how to clean George's shoe?" I wanted to stand tall. To say, "Why me?" I didn't even step on him. But I didn't dare. I was a coward. I only dared to argue in my head. In my imagination, I rejected them with heroic flair. George Evans was the protagonist top. He was the one who would later target me, kick me out of this school. He came from money and power. A temperamental crown prince no one dared cross. I couldn't afford to offend him. So I mumbled, "Oh." George Evans was undeniably handsome. Sharp nose, thin lips, a face sculpted like cold marble. His long, phoenix-like eyes held nothing but disdain. Even Fred couldn't help but look at him. But I didn't dare. I knelt on the ground and wiped his shoe with my bare hand. I did it carefully, meticulously. But I forgot, my shirt was loose at the collar. From George's angle, he could see all the way from my collarbone to my navel. The heat had flushed my skin pale, and 2 spots were flushed even pinker. His gaze snapped away like he'd been burned. His foot followed. His voice was colder than before. "Stay away from me. What the hell are you even wearing?" I froze. This shirt, it was a discounted streetwear brand. The hem was a little stained. My grandfather gave it to me for my birthday. It was my favorite, my best shirt. A little big, not the perfect fit. but I only wore it for important occasions. And now it had been called cheap. I dug at my fingertips, eyes stinging. Maybe to George Evans? I wasn't even worthy of cleaning his shoes. "I'm sorry," I murmured. "This shirt is the best one I have. I didn't mean to offend you." George looked stunned. I kept trying to squeeze into their circle, convinced I could be friends with them. They were always annoyed with me, disgusted by how desperate I was. George frowned. "What are you even pretending?" He stopped. He heard it. The sound of me choking back tears. I lowered my head. "I'm sorry. I was just afraid you'd all look down on me. I wanted to be friends. But even the money for my train ticket here, I earned it myself by selling lemonade." Noan Academy never publicly distinguished between nobles and scholarship students. But I'd acted like I could blend in. Too proud to show how poor I really was. Too eager to win their favor. Even spending my own money just to make them like me. They thought that if I didn't ask for money, I must be scheming for something even bigger. That's the rule they all understood. Nothing is ever truly free. All this time, they'd assumed I came from a modest background. They didn't realize I was this poor. The realization left them a little stunned. I forced a smile, but my eyes shimmered with sadness. I was being delusional. Someone like me, just a scholarship kid, how could I ever be your friend? The air turned still. No one spoke. I took the chance to frame my vanity as insecurity. I made it sound like I only tried so hard because I didn't want to be looked down on. Then I could bow out pitifully. A clean exit. Everyone satisfied. I had no intention of getting kicked out of this school. Even George Evans looked a little dazed. He saw me with my head lowered, the curve of my pale ears peeking through my black hair. My neck, slender and delicate. My lips pressed tight, struggling to hold back the sobs. Apologizing in a trembling voice, like a little kitten mewling for comfort after being wronged. I was just about to make my pitiful exit when someone pulled me up. I looked up, startled. It was George Evans. His fingers brushed across my tear-streaked cheek. A little awkward. A little hesitant. For the first time, he spoke gently. "Don't cry, okay? I never said I looked down on you." Was he comforting me? I was so surprised I hiccuped. "Huh." I wiped at my eyes. "It's fine. It's not the first time someone's looked down on me. Really. I'll leave you all alone from now on." I turned to leave, but George Evans grabbed my wrist. He clicked his tongue, irritated and awkward. It looked like he wanted to say something kind, but didn't know how. So it came out all gruff and blunt. "You want to be friends, right? Fine. Whatever. Today's Williams Herbert's yacht party. Come with us." I blinked. Huh. Then panic set in. I waved my hands. "And no, really, I don't want to." Too late. George Evans had already tugged me along. "I'm saying we're friends now, so stop sulking." He still thought I was just throwing a tantrum. But I wasn't. Who forces someone to be friends? I didn't want to go. But I was a coward. I was terrified of him. The moment he pulled me, I froze. Didn't even dare resist. The other young masters, surprisingly, didn't mock me. They didn't say a single sarcastic word. No one opposed it. They all silently agreed to bring me along. Just before I was dragged away, I looked back and saw Fred Owen standing there, biting his lip, staring at our backs. That's when I remembered. Fred was the one who was supposed to be forced onto that yacht. Not me. Fred would have been humiliated there. But his unbreakable spirit would have impressed the young masters. Made them see him differently. Even made them fall for him. But me? I'd crumble. If someone tried to bully me, I'd just beg them to stop. The yacht was bigger than I imagined. 3 full decks. When I heard it was a birthday gift from Williams Herbert's father, I nearly passed out from shock. I must have looked like a clueless country bumpkin, gawking at every little detail like it was treasure. I was still admiring some ornate railing when I realized the room had gone quiet. I turned. They were all staring at me. Some amused. Some smirking. I was the odd duckling among a flock of swans. George Evans massaged his temples. "Come sit down already." "What? Never seen a yacht before? Next time I'll take you to my yacht." My eyes lit up instantly. I hurried over to sit beside him. You have one too? George caught the sparkle in my eyes, and the corner of his mouth twitched. Of course. Mine's even nicer. Wow. Really? He added like it was no big deal. It's a limited edition. I'll take you out to see sometime. Amazing! He glanced at me, my expression full of admiration and envy. Trying to stay calm, he muttered, It's not that big a deal. The other young masters, now feeling competitive, joined in. Huh, like you're the only one. Mine's bright red. You like red? I nodded furiously, immediately transferring my admiration. Love it. Love red. Another chimed in. I've got one too. Took it out last time for sea fishing. Wanna see pictures? I rushed over eager. Whoa! I was busy bouncing from one to the next, gushing over their yachts and photos. A young master who didn't have one grumbled off to the side. It's just a yacht. Whatever. I'll buy one tomorrow. George Evans' expression darkened by the second. He sat there silently, like a brewing storm. You couldn't even guess what he was angry about. Finally, Williams Herbert let out a chuckle and broke the tension. Isn't today my birthday? Why is everyone showing off their yachts? Trying to steal my spotlight or something? I sat there, completely confused. The others quieted down immediately, coughing awkwardly and pretending to be busy. No one paid me any attention after that. So I quietly returned to my seat beside George Evans. I heard him let out a soft snort. Was that aimed at me? I lowered my gaze and pretended to study the floor, heart racing. I don't think I did anything to upset him. Williams Herbert suggested we play something simple. To accommodate the clueless bumpkin. King's game, he said with a grin. Easy stuff. Whoever draws the joker becomes the king and can command any two numbers to do a mini-game. Got it? I nodded. I knew this game. It was part of the original story, used to humiliate Fred Owen. Williams Herbert cheated. He always knew Fred's number. Every round he singled him out. The worst was when he made Fred jump into the ocean for 10 minutes. And Fred, being Fred, actually did it. Because that's who he was. Proud, defiant, fearless. I couldn't even swim. If I jumped, I'd drown. I bit my lip and whispered, Can I sit this one out? No one responded. I turned to George Evans. He didn't even look at me. Williams Herbert was already dealing the cards. And, of course, he drew the joker. Number 5, use your mouth to unbuckle number 3's belt, he said casually. What? I was number 5. But wait, I don't remember Fred ever being given this punishment in the original story. George Evans slammed his card down with a scowl. What kind of bullshit game is this? He was number 3. Williams Herbert chuckled. Relax. Now, who's number 5? I raised my hand hesitantly. Me. Then go on, he said, voice all too pleasant. George's expression twisted. By the time I reached toward him, his voice finally broke the silence. You don't have to. It's fine, I interrupted. As long as I didn't have to jump into the ocean. What was unbuckling a belt in comparison? George frowned but didn't stop me. I knelt in front of him, leaning in close. My breath ghosted over the waistband of his pants. His hand hovered uncertainly over my shoulder, half pushing me away, half not. I couldn't tell if it was the cold metal of the belt buckle or something else pressing against my cheek. Everyone was holding their breath. I felt the weight of every gaze, prickling against my back. Not a single person spoke. My jaw ached. The whole thing felt endless. George kept frowning, one hand still bracing my shoulder. The more he pushed, the harder I leaned in, just to get it over with. One forceful tug. My face crashed forward. F***CK, what are you doing? George practically leapt up. I hurriedly pressed a hand to his thigh. It'll be quick. Just bear with it. I sounded like a shady villain luring some pure maiden into sin. George froze. His face turned red with frustration and shame. But in the end, he gritted his teeth and let me continue. His breathing deepened with each passing second. It was awful. Awkward. Painfully slow. Eventually, I managed to finish the task. George's voice was hoarse when he looked up and shot a glare at Williams Herbert. Happy now? He looked downright tortured. Like he was the one being punished, not me. Williams burst out laughing. You know, you could have just taken a drink instead. Didn't think you'd actually do it. George fell silent. My face burned. So I was being messed with. And George had tried to warn me. I just didn't get it in time. Shame turned to frustration, then to anger at myself. From that point on, any time I was chosen, I just drank. The drink tasted sweet, like juice. Not a trace of alcohol. Practically soda. George frowned, pushing my cup away. Stop drinking so much. I figured he was annoyed. Maybe he thought I was being a party pooper. But I didn't even want to be here. They forced me into this. I felt wronged. My lips quivered. I looked up at him, eyes wide and watery. George stared at me in stunned silence. Then quickly averted his eyes. Do what you want. So I did. I kept drinking. Only later did I find out that the drink was a slow-acting, high-proof liquor. George had been trying to stop me. But the moment I looked at him like that, he caved. Of course, I ended up blacking out. I was floating somewhere between dreams and dizziness when I rolled over and, bam, my head smacked into the edge of the side table. Loud enough to make anyone wince. Shit. Someone rushed over George Evans. He cradled my forehead and helped me sit up. Is your head made of iron? That sounded like a damn gong. I blinked. My head throbbed, my mind still foggy. Then his face came into view, handsome and close. And I just stared at him. Stupidly. Wow, you're really handsome. George Evans' expression shifted from concern to confusion, then bloomed into a full-on blush. What did you just say? We were on the third-floor sofa of the yacht. He'd carried me up here after the party, when I passed out. He'd just set me down when I opened my eyes. I don't get red when I drink. I don't get loud or wild either. But once I'm drunk, it's like I become someone else. Blank, sluggish, and oddly thoughtful. In truth, I was completely out of it. But if you didn't know me well, you'd never notice. George Evans didn't notice. He cleared his throat, trying to change the subject. You're not even drunk, huh? Not bad. You can really hold your liquor. I blinked and mumbled, just a little sleepy. Okay then, sleep. I'm heading down. He turned to go, but I reached out and caught his hand. He turned back. I looked at him with clear, open eyes. Don't go, okay? We could sleep together. It was lonely being by myself. In my eyes, George Evans was like a pretty doll. He froze, stunned by my words. Sleep together? Are you serious? I nodded solemnly. George frowned slightly, like he was searching his memory. Then, after a moment, he asked, Wait, like me? I nodded again. Truth was, at this point, he could have asked if I wanted to join the circus and I'd have nodded. He blinked. He saw my upturned face, the way I looked only at him. Felt how tightly I clung to his hand. As if my entire world revolved around him. He thought of how I'd always trailed after them, never once giving up. How, even with nothing to spare, I'd scraped together money to buy gifts, for all of them, just to include him. How I never left, even when they mocked me. How I always looked at him with those bright, admiring eyes. How I'd thrown myself at him during that game, wiping his shoes like I was seducing him. George's Adam's apple bobbed. He suddenly understood. He stared at me for a second, then asked in disbelief. So, all that effort to be friends with us, was because you liked me? I just stared at him, wide-eyed. I could hear the words. But my brain? Completely offline. All I could think was, why is he talking so much? I don't get it. George struggled with himself. He was certain I had deep feelings for him. He sighed, frustrated. I'll be your friend, okay? But I can't return your feelings. You shouldn't like me anymore. I nodded. He blinked, clearly not expecting me to agree so fast. He studied my face carefully. Then sighed again, resigned. You're only saying that, but I know you won't really let go. Just, don't look at me like that anymore. Like you're trying to seduce me. I'm straight. We won't work. I nodded again. To him, it must have looked like we'd come to an understanding. But I still hadn't let go of his hand. My face, small and warm, tilted up toward him. Eyes filled with longing. George looked away, avoiding my gaze. I told you not to look at me like that. But I kept staring. He gritted his teeth. Finally, he gave in. Fine. I'll stay with you. And so George Evans sat beside me the entire night. Still holding my hand. Only after I was sure he wouldn't leave did I fall asleep. That drink was brutal. I passed out completely. No clue how I even got back to the dorm. When I finally woke up, it was already past noon. The first thing I felt was pain. My forehead throbbed. I reached up and found a big bump. In the haze, I vaguely remembered. George Evans did this. He was so mean. How could he hit my head like that? When I sat up, Fred Owen was just returning. We shared a dorm room. He narrowed his eyes at me. Didn't look pleased. I was about to greet him, but then remembered. Fred probably hated me. I had been sucking up to those rich kids for weeks. I smiled awkwardly, forehead swelling like a melon. He blinked, frowning. What happened to your head? Did they hit you? I waved it off. No. It's nothing. They didn't hit me. Fred didn't believe a word of it. Those bastards. I'm taking you to them. Thanks, really, but that's not necessary. He wasn't listening. No matter how I tried to refuse, he insisted. Apparently, he already knew where to find them. Dragged me straight to the cafeteria. As soon as we walked in, I saw them. George Evans and the rest of them. One of the rich kids raised an eyebrow. Since when do you eat here? George didn't look up from his phone. Seemed like he was waiting for a call. Shut up. I can come here if I want. Fred didn't hesitate. He marched us right up to them. Made a beeline for George Evans. He was fuming. George Evans, he snapped. Why the hell did you bully Ray Fuller? You think just because you're rich, you can treat people like trash. George finally looked up. And the second he saw me, he froze. Then quickly locked his phone and tucked it away, pretending he hadn't been waiting for anything at all. George Evans cleared his throat. Who said I bullied him? Fred Owen fired back. You can dish it out but can't take it? I can't believe this is who you really are. Just because I refused to wipe your shoes yesterday, you went after my roommate instead. Even though I was a coward, I knew better than to say, it's fine, when someone was standing up for me. So I widened my eyes and glared at George Evans. I locked my gaze onto him. I'm watching you. Fred's words were sharp, and George's face had already clouded over. But when his eyes landed on me, he faltered for a beat. A strange flush climbed his ears as he looked away in a rush. Why are you pouting like that? Who's pouting? I puffed up my cheeks. My head hurts. Because you hit me. At that, George forgot all about Fred. He walked over immediately. Where does it hurt? I lifted my bangs to show him the bump. Looked at him with all the silent accusation I could muster. Something like guilt flickered through his eyes before he quickly straightened his face. You idiot. It's that swollen and you didn't go to the infirmary? Excuse me, did he just insult me again? I stared at him, stunned. George looked conflicted, but eventually gave a reluctant huff. Forget it. But friends, I'll take you to the infirmary. Before I could respond, Fred suddenly yanked my hand hard. The grip hurt. He snapped, no need. How do we know you're not just pretending to be kind? My hand ached. George's gaze darkened. His voice turned cold. Fred Owen, if you've got a problem, take it up with me. Don't use Ray Fuller as your excuse. Let him go. Fred froze, startled. The other young masters began to gather. What a joke. What's your problem, jealous of rich people? You think we'd waste time bullying someone like you? Haven't you always been the one throwing yourself at us? Think we can't tell? We played with you to kill time, and now you really think you're someone? If we actually wanted to mess with you, do you think you could handle it? George let out a cold laugh, a hint of warning in his eyes. That's enough. Fred Owen's face went pale. He didn't have the courage to keep going. He let go of my hand and ran off. I was a little dazed. Then George reached for my hand again. Let's go. Infirmary. Oh, that hurts. George was gently pressing an ice pack to my head. When I winced, he frowned even deeper. Hurts that much? His hand twitched, adjusting the pressure, his touch soft as if I were a porcelain doll. Still, he clicked his tongue and muttered, "You're so delicate." He has the nerve to say that, when he's the one who hit me. I was angry, but didn't dare take it out on him. What if he kicked me out? I pursed my lips, tears brimming in my eyes. "Look at me. Can't you treat me a little nicer?" George paused. He opened his mouth, closed it, then finally grumbled, "I get it. Stop acting cute." The look in his eyes was a mix of irritation and helplessness. To him, it was obvious, I really liked him. He asked, "Why didn't you answer your phone?" That's when I realized my phone was dead. I pulled it out. It had shut off sometime in the night. Too old. Battery didn't last. He frowned. "I'll buy you a new one." I blinked, startled, and quickly shook my head. "Thank you, but no, it still works." "That piece of junk still works?" I pursed my lips. "It's not junk. If I use a power bank, it lasts." My grandpa gave it to me in high school. It's secondhand, but it's never broken. He'd bought it when he saw my younger brother had a phone, but I didn't. Gave it to me the morning I left for college. I still remember him wiping my tears with those calloused, weather-worn hands. "You're a college student now, my boy. A man of knowledge. Don't be like your old grandpa. Work hard, build a life in the city." I nodded fiercely, eyes full of tears. Watched him from the bus window, his small figure, the hunched shoulders, and cried all over again. I was a left-behind child. Didn't live with my parents until middle school. But by then, they already had my younger brother. I felt like a guest in my own home. Every break, I'd run back to the village, to Grandpa. He was the only one who truly loved me. That's why I had to endure all this. I couldn't afford to make enemies of George Evans and the others. I had to study hard. I couldn't let Grandpa down. George's brows furrowed deeper with every word. There was a strange tightness in his chest he didn't know how to name. He looked at my calm, practiced expression, like I didn't even realize how heavy those words were. Like they'd been carved into me long ago. And it made his throat taste bitter. All of it felt so far from his world, so far he couldn't even imagine it. And then he remembered what I'd said before, that I paid for my own ticket to school by selling lemonade. If not for the scholarship, the tuition waiver, the living stipend, we probably never would have crossed paths. He let out a breath, trying to sound casual. "Guess your phone's still all right." "Actually, mine broke and I've been meaning to fix it. 2-for-1 deal. I'll sneak yours in too, free repair." My eyes lit up. "Really?" George looked away, unable to meet my gaze. "Yeah. Why would I lie?" I smiled. In that moment, I thought maybe George Evans wasn't so bad after all. Maybe I'd forgive him for smacking me in the head. "Thank you." George frowned again, this time out of something deeper. "There's nothing to thank me for." Ever since that day, I had somehow, weirdly become part of the young master's circle. I used to chase after them shamelessly, trying to fit in. Now they were the ones always asking if I had time, if I wanted to hang out. George Evans fixed my phone. But something felt off. It looked the same on the outside, but inside? It was way too smooth. The battery lasted forever. When I asked, he just said the repair guy was good. To thank him, I got him a gift. A cup of pearl milk tea and a little cake. Top-tier treatment. The others? I bought them a big bottle of regular milk tea. Had to. If I only brought one for George Evans again, they'd fight over it. Like that time I bought fruit just for George to say thanks. Once they heard it was just for him, they swarmed me like it was a famine. Snatched it all up. George never even got to touch it. So this time I came prepared. Everyone got something. George Evans walked up and took the pearl milk tea from my hands. His expression a little awkward. "What's this even?" he muttered. But his hand was very honest. Took it without hesitation. I leaned in and whispered, "Yours is different from theirs. Yours is the best one." God forbid the others heard that. They'd eat me alive. George Evans froze, hand pausing mid-motion. The tips of his ears flushed red. His lips curved slightly, then pressed down again quickly. I get it. Stop being so obvious. You're really not giving up, are you? I blinked, confused for a second, then figured he was talking about the gifts. I nodded firmly. Of course not. This is what I should do. I won't give up until I reach my goal. That's what Grandpa taught me. Always be grateful. George Evans was stunned, caught completely off guard. His chest tightened, like something had skipped a beat. Panic flickered in his eyes. He stared into mine and saw it. The sincerity. The resolve. I loved him that deeply. His throat bobbed, ears flushing again. He coughed awkwardly and looked away. I get it. Just give me some time to think about it, okay? Think about what? I didn't quite follow. Oh, okay. George Evans took days to think. And every time our eyes met, he'd quickly look away. I'd never seen him like that. It was a little weird. I liked studying. When I didn't have class, I'd always go to the library. Today was no different. Except halfway there, I got surrounded. The vibes? Very not friendly. Leading the group was a very pretty girl. And Fred Owen. He was glaring at me, jealous rage practically dripping off him. It's him. Not only did he seduce George Evans, but now the whole gang's into him. They're all siding with him. The girl narrowed her eyes, tone full of disdain. So this is who George Evans has his eye on? A scholarship student? I think I've heard my brother mention you before. George Evans is supposed to marry me someday. Who do you think you are? That line. Why did it sound so familiar? Wasn't this part of the original plot? In the original story, the scheming villainous Leslie Herbert tried to threaten Fred Owen. Back then, Fred and George Evans already had feelings for each other, but hadn't made it official. Leslie was the antagonist that pushed their relationship forward. She was Williams Herbert's sister, in love with George Evans. Her parents had even mentioned a childhood engagement between them. George Evans never cared for it, but she took it seriously. She obsessed over him, schemed against Fred. In the end, she married some fat, greasy tycoon and lived a miserable life. I never expected her plotline to come after me. And all because Fred Owen tattled? But George and I were innocent. I lowered my head, frantically trying to think. Leslie's voice rose. Hey, what are you staring at? Can't hear me talking to you? I flinched, blurting out without thinking, your shoes are really pretty. Her expression faltered. What? I mean it. The pattern's beautiful. The purple really suits you. She looked a little embarrassed. Really? I designed them myself. My eyes widened. That's amazing. Did you study design? Why would I study something like that? I won't need to work. I'm going to be George Evans' wife. I blinked at her. But you like design, don't you? Even your uniform looks custom. So stylish. You have real talent. Her lips twitched upward. Seriously? Everyone says I don't need to learn that stuff. That I should focus on marrying George Evans. Why should you listen to them? You're beautiful and talented. I bet tons of people like you. You have options. George Evans isn't the only path. She hesitated. Then like something clicked. Yeah. Why do I have to pick him? I've always liked fashion design more. Exactly. Maybe, like me, she'd been stuck in the plot too. But I broke the script. I praised her sincerely. She scoffed in that prideful, awkward way. You're not that bad. Let's add each other on Messenger. Really? Okay. I felt shy, but excited. I'd never added a girl's contact before. Fred Owen stood there, utterly dumbfounded. Weren't you going to teach him a lesson? Leslie rolled her eyes. Mind your business. He's under my protection now. Anyone who tries to mess with him is messing with me, Leslie Herbert. I'd just gotten myself a personal protector. Weird, but kind of hilarious. Looks like I'd just rewritten the villainous bullying arc. And changed Leslie's ending too. After we exchanged contacts, Leslie led her group away. Just as I was about to head back toward the library, I saw George Evans. I had no idea how long he'd been standing there. The moment our eyes met, his expression turned awkward. He muttered, I heard everything. What? He looked away, ears turning bright red. I heard you tell Leslie Herbert not to like me. I was worried you'd get bullied, but turns out you handled it just fine. Even declared your claim. Declared what now? Territorial claim? Lately, I really didn't understand a single word that came out of George Evans' mouth. Was he still speaking Chinese? Or was I supposed to do a reading comprehension test here? He glanced at me and added, that engagement with Leslie, our parents arranged it. I don't like her. You don't have to worry. I blinked. Why would I worry? I replied plainly, I'm not worried. George let out a soft sigh. I know you're pretending you're not. I'll talk to her parents and clear things up. What? No, really, I'm not worried. He gave me a knowing look. Alright. I get that you're not worried. But I'm still going to say something. He looked at me like I was being adorably stubborn, clearly thinking, you like me this much, how could you possibly not care? In his mind, I had just staked my claim over him. Then he cleared his throat, like he was working up some big decision. I've thought about it, he said. I mean, I'm not into guys, but if it's you, I think I could be okay with it. I know you like me a lot. You're happy now, right? I stared at him. He sort of understood what he said, but not really. What are you talking about? When did I say I liked you? George's pupils contracted. Total disbelief. You don't like me? I scratched my head. Aren't we just friends? He frowned. Wait, did I take too long to give you an answer? Are you mad? Or are you jealous? I shook my head. No, we're just friends. He stared at me for a few seconds. Then came to a conclusion. I don't believe you. You're obviously jealous and just pretending not to care. Did I not give you enough reassurance? I'll fix it. Just don't be mad, okay? I sighed. I'm really not mad. And I don't like you that way. George looked hurt. Confused. He frowned. But didn't you confess to me before? And you gave me the best milk tea, just me. I blinked. When did I confess? That was just to thank you for fixing my phone. He stared at me for a few seconds again. He exhaled. Relieved. You're lying. You're totally jealous. Then he said, like he'd made up his mind. This is my fault. I didn't give you enough security. Just wait a little longer. I swear I won't let you down. And before I could respond, he turned around and walked away. Like a man on a mission. So dramatic. I didn't see George Evans for the next 2 days. The others said he'd gone home. The next time I saw him was in the hallway outside the library restroom. He called my name. Voice dark. Ray Fuller. I turned, startled. George Evans? What are you doing here? His eyes were sharp, almost accusing. Like a husband catching his wife cheating. Who was that guy sitting across from you just now? My classmate. He was another scholarship student. We'd bumped into each other a few times at the library and occasionally shared a table. George let out a cold laugh. Classmate? You talked to him. You smiled at him. 3 times. He even touched your hand. What? He picked up my pen. He handed it back. That's holding hands. He looked genuinely hurt. Betrayed even. I had no idea why he was acting like this. He didn't say anything else. Just stared at me. Like he was waiting for me to comfort him. I hesitated. Sorry. Please don't be mad. George's stiff expression softened. He straightened up like he was restoring his dignity. Fine. You're young, you don't know better. It must have been his fault. How dare he try to seduce you? Then he followed me back to my seat. Sat beside me. Very close. Every time the guy across from us opened his mouth, George cut in. This is a library. Kindly keep it down. And he stared at the poor guy. So intensely, the pressure must have been unbearable. The guy leaned over and asked me, Is he your friend? I was about to answer. When George interrupted. I'm his boyfriend. I froze. Stared at him. George patted my hand affectionately. Like, it's okay you're shy, so I said it for you. I had to drag him out of there before people started thinking we were both insane. Once outside, I looked at him helplessly. What are you doing? He answered proudly. Claiming what's mine. I already explained everything to my parents. Aren't you happy? He leaned in like he was going to hug me. I pushed him away. He winced. His face twisted in pain. Oh. I panicked. What's wrong? He waved it off. Nothing. I'm fine. I didn't believe him. I reached out and touched his back. And he flinched. I froze. Who dared hit George Evans? I asked him. He wouldn't say. So I copied his usual expression, cold and silent. Eventually he gave in. My dad hit me. It's fine. I'll be fine. Why? I didn't follow his plan. It's nothing really. But I already knew. You told him about us, didn't you? George Evans refused to meet my eyes. No. I didn't. I looked at him, grimacing. Even the slightest touch hurt. How serious must this injury be? George Evans raised a brow and gave my cheek a gentle pinch. Feeling sorry for me? Then if I ever get kicked out of my house, can I move in with you and help sell lemonade? I turned my face away. You don't even know how to sell lemonade. I can learn. Just say yes or no. I actually took a moment to think it over. George Evans had been nothing but kind. He didn't look down on me for being poor. He was the first to befriend me. He iced my bruises, fixed my phone, protected me when I was in trouble. He was my first real friend. He felt different. Even Grandpa would probably like him. Hey, you can come. George beamed like he'd just won something. Knew it. You definitely like me. I don't. For the next few days, George Evans practically glued himself to my side. He said he was providing me with a sense of security. No matter what I said, he refused to believe I wasn't in love with him. Everything I said was just denial in his eyes. You can't wake someone who's pretending to be asleep. He kept bringing me fancy snacks and treats I'd never even heard of. I think he figured out that food was the only gift I wouldn't refuse. The next day was the weekend. I planned to buy something small to thank him. But I got kidnapped. When I opened my eyes again, I saw a masked man looming over me. He stared at me, voice filtered through a disguised voice modulator. Awake? You're Ray Fuller? Panic turned my face pale. I have no money. I'm just a scholarship student at Noan Academy. You've got the wrong person. The man gave a cold laugh. Nope. You're exactly who we wanted. Now call George Evans. Tell him to come save you. And that's when I realized. They didn't want me. They wanted him. I couldn't drag George into this. I don't know him that well. He won't come. I swear. I don't even have money. Please let me go. I didn't see your face. The man just scoffed again. You don't get to decide if he comes or not. He grabbed my phone. No password. He went straight into my contacts and found George Evans. The call connected almost instantly. Hey, you're awake? Take a guess. What did I buy you today? The masked man interrupted with a sneer. George Evans, right? Your little friend is with us. If you want him back alive, come alone. Or he dies. George's tone dropped like a blade. What the hell did you do to him? The man shoved the phone to my mouth. Say something. I pressed my lips shut. Refused. Tough guy, huh? He snapped his fingers. Bring me the knife. My blood ran cold. I could hear George's breathing change on the other end. Don't touch him. I'm on my way. You want me, not him. Don't lay a finger on him. The line went dead. The masked man tilted my chin up with the tip of his glove. You two are very close, huh? Now tell me, if I said I don't want money, and only one of you gets to live, who would you choose? Who do you think George Evans would pick? My palms were drenched in sweat. I was terrified. Absolutely, bone-deep terrified. I didn't want to die. But I didn't want George Evans to die either. The place was run down, remote. There were multiple masked men, tall, muscular. Could we really make it out alive? George Evans showed up quickly. There was a sheen of sweat across his forehead. When he saw me tied to the chair, he let out a shaky breath. I'm here. Let him go. If it's money you want, take me. Just let him go. The masked man smiled coldly. Sure. Step right here and I'll release him. But he didn't want money. He wanted blood. I unclenched my jaw and rasped, "George Evans, go. He's not after money, he's going to kill you." George's expression hardened instantly. The masked man smirked. "One life for another. If you want him to live, you'll have to die." George Evans clenched his fists. "How do I know I can trust you?" The masked man smirked. "You don't. Fine, I'll just kill him then. You can go." "I'll trade. Let him go." I felt the ropes around my body loosen, only my hands remained bound. One of the masked men shoved me forward. "Go on. Get out." They released me. As I turned back, I saw George Evans now bound in my place. He caught my eye, and for just 1 second, his tightly furrowed brows relaxed. Then he looked away, as if afraid I'd hesitate. This place was remote. No one would come. They'd taken my phone. Even if I managed to report it, by the time the police arrived, George Evans might already be dead. The thought of him dying twisted something sharp in my chest. He came here for me. If he died because of that, it'd be no different than me killing him. I stopped walking. Eyes burning red, I turned around. "You said I could choose, right? Then take me again. Let him go." George Evans snapped his head up. "What the hell are you saying? Get out of here." "I won't. How am I supposed to live if you die? What would I do? I'd spend my whole life drowning in guilt." The masked man tilted his head, a little surprised. "So deep, huh?" George looked at me, his eyes filled with disbelief, pain, but he turned away again and said, "Didn't you say you didn't like me? Then don't. Go like someone else." I was furious. Tears fell, one after another. This guy. He was the same person who used to say I could only like him. No matter how many times I denied it, he never believed me. But now he suddenly believed it, and told me to like someone else. Cut the crap. You switch with me. You go like someone else. There's no way I could like someone else. I'm not that kind of person. Oh, but I am. The moment I said it, George Evans froze. A flush crept up his cheeks, crawling all the way to the tips of his ears. And I suddenly realized what I'd just blurted out. Oh no. Did I just confess? Must have been the anger. It short-circuited my brain. The masked man suddenly burst out laughing. "Oh well, got it." He pulled off his mask. I instinctively covered my eyes. Until I heard George Evans shout, "Dad?" "Wait, Dad." I slowly opened my eyes. The man did resemble George, a strong jaw, sharp eyes. He was handsome. He smiled. "Hey." So, the kidnapper was George Evans' dad. Which meant we weren't actually going to die. They untied my hands. And the second I was free, I ran straight into George Evans' arms. Held him tight like I'd just escaped death. He hugged me back just as tightly. "It's okay. Don't cry. It's over." Then he turned and glared at his dad. "This is your fault. Why the hell did you scare him like that?" George Evans' dad actually apologized to me. He said he originally wanted to break us up. He figured no matter who gave up first, there'd be a crack in our relationship. But we both refused to give up on the other. So he gave up on breaking us apart. He even said our relationship reminded him of him and George's mom. I was speechless. And mortified, thinking back on what I'd yelled earlier. But George Evans wasn't going to let me off the hook. "So, you finally admitted you like me, huh?" He grinned. "Didn't know your feelings were this deep. Don't worry, I won't let you down. I never said I liked you. You talk too much. I don't believe you. You were ready to die for me. You definitely love me. A lot. I love you too." I said I don't. All right. You don't. Sure. He smirked. "I still don't believe you though." The end.
Thanks for stopping by. Subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any new videos.